What's going on, guys? Welcome to our Sunday Stock Talk. For those that are tuning on in for the first time, what's going on? My name is Ricky, and welcome to our channel. So this is where I go live every single Sunday, and I break down the top stocks that our group members see value in. So I have a pretty conservative way that I like to trade. Anytime a stock or a company is incredibly overbought or overvalued, I tend to play it on the safer side, and my content kind of reflects that. If you're someone that's super aggressive, even at extreme overbought levels, I'm just being straight up with you. I don't think that you will resonate very well with the content that we create in this channel. But if you're someone that's just getting started, you want to be a little bit more on the safer, more conservative side, focus a little bit more on blue chip tech companies, then I think that, hopefully, with the series of videos that you watch from us, you can see a little bit more value in that. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. I'm going to be breaking down the top 5 stocks that our members see value in. I'm going to first talk about where the NASDAQ market is as of right now and kind of what's in store for this upcoming week. I do want to remind you that if you want me to answer any of your questions, all you have to do is subscribe to the channel, which is absolutely for free. And then you can partake in the live chat, which is the little chat that you see on the right-hand side of your screen. So if you have any question, any stock that you would like me to break down, share it in that live chat. Would be more than happy to break it down for you. And hopefully I earn your thumbs up. So let's go ahead and first talk about this trading week. This trading week, there's Thanksgiving, and the day after Thanksgiving, it's a half day. So right off the bat, we have really 4 trading days, but almost like 3.5. So the stock market closes early, if I'm not mistaken, on Friday. So please make sure that you are aware of that. On top of that, it's a pretty interesting time to be paying attention to the market. So this is the NASDAQ ETF. This is QQQ. A lot of you guys might have heard of SPY. SPY is the S&P 500 ETF, right? The S&P 500 is the top 500 most valuable companies that are publicly traded. And as you can see, if you were to ask the question, is the market bullish right now? Is the market bearish? The market is bullish, meaning that it's indicating signs of an uptrend. It's above the moving average, on the 200 moving average on the 4-hour time frame. Higher highs, higher lows. Direction is still pointing up. The same thing for QQQ, not as overbought, but again, still bullish. Higher highs, higher lows. Recently pulled on back, found its support here at that moving average, and we're working our way to see, hey, are we going to break above that 507 resistance and continue to trend back to 516, or are we going to get rejected here, form lower highs, break below that EMA, and come back to retrace to that $500 support on QQQ? So that's kind of what we have in store this week, where we're going to realistically, market's been so incredibly bullish that, market just continues to push up. But again, you can never know. We're going to stay patient, wait for the price action to tell us, hey, is market breaking above 507, trending back to 516, or are we going to get rejected here, break below EMA, and come back down to that 500 support? So something that I would love to follow up with once direction becomes more clear. So market is bullish. Forming higher highs, higher lows on the much larger time frame. We're just waiting to see if that trend is going to continue or get rejected with a lower high. The big question also right now, a lot of people are focused on Bitcoin. Let me just make it very clear. I do not trade Bitcoin or crypto myself, especially not at these levels. Anytime something is incredibly overbought and the hype has already kind of passed, can Bitcoin continue to trend higher? If that's the question you're asking, the simple answer is yes. Bitcoin can hit 100,000, it can hit 110,000. The simple reason that I'm avoiding crypto or Bitcoin right now is because the loss potential is significantly greater than the profit potential. For all those that are trying to buy at these levels, you've kind of missed the train, right? Bitcoin works in roller coasters where it has these strong rallies, but then has these very aggressive sell-offs. Again, the rally has already happened, in my opinion. And even if it does end up, going to highs of, 110,000 per coin, that's great. But the profit potential is what? 10, 12%? What's the loss potential? Well, again, last time we went from 67,000 all the way down to 14 to 16,000, right? So the downside risk is significantly greater than the upside potential, which is, again, our channel focuses on mitigating risk, just making beginners aware that while everyone likes to hype everything up, we like to make you aware of the downside risk, not so you avoid this opportunity, because If you're like, hey, I understand how much Bitcoin could potentially lose, I understand how much this stock could potentially lose, whatever the case might be, I'm okay with that, then at least you're informed, right? And that's all we can ever hope for you to be, is that you take time and really to take both sides into consideration. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So if you want me to break down your stock, just feel free to share it in that live chat, and I would be more than happy to break it down for you. So hopefully it's not too much to ask. Just drop a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share your top stock in that live chat. So we have Mao, is that how you pronounce your name? Asking for me to break down MSTR. I would be happy to break down MSTR. What do you think I'm going to say about MSTR? Does MSTR seem like a good stock to invest in right now? What does this look like to you? What do you guys think? SMCI is going to be another one we have to follow up with, because I know SMCI has been very trendy lately. But what does MSTR look like to you? I'm excited for MSTR this week. Definitely. I like it. Pump and dump, right? I mean, what does it look like? From overall lows of September of $120 per share to highs of $543 per share. I'd love for you to show me one stock that has skyrocketed 300% in 80 days and that has maintained that price level. Just share one stock with me in history. Not 5, not 10, just one stock. Just share one stock in history that has shot up 300% in a few days and holds its price level there. I'll wait here. Let me know when you guys find one. But without further ado, MSTR, the first thing you need to know, it's an incredibly bullish stock right now. Regardless of how shitty or overvalued I think the company might be, you have to respect one thing. And that's that the direction is incredibly bullish. There's a lot of momentum. And believe it or not, this stock can continue to skyrocket. Just like the whole GameStop and AMC movement. Just like SMCI. When those stocks get pumping, it doesn't make sense how quickly they can skyrocket. So just because a stock might be overhyped up or overvalued shouldn't justify you shorting it. Price action has to be in our favor. And let me explain. So if we look at this on the 30-minute time frame, you can see that the day that it sold off 32% from the overall highs of 548 to overall lows of 426, let me double check that. I'm sorry. Yeah, it sold off a lot more. So from overall highs of 548 to overall lows of 371, it sold off 32%. And you can see right off the bat the volume, price action, aggressively selling off, a lot of selling pressure, and so much downside potential. This is when it was clear that it made more sense to short it than to go long on it. Now, if we get a day like this where price action is bullish, then we have to respect that as well. I don't care if you're a bull. I don't care if you're a bear. We all know one thing, and that is we need to learn how to dance with the market, or you end up paying the price for it. And I've paid the price many times. There's many times that I'm maybe emotionally invested or I want something to happen, but guess what? Your opinion, my opinion, your hope, my hope means nothing in this market. Let's remove emotions and let's focus on one thing, and that's price action and direction. What are the markets telling us? What is the price action telling us? And as of right now, although MSTR is incredibly overbought and there's huge pullback potential, you always have to give credit to the bulls. It's an incredibly trendy stock. There's a lot of hype behind it, and it can continue to rally. So because of that, I think it's an important stock to watch right now. I don't think necessarily it's the safest stock to short because it's not completely crashing just yet. I think it's showing signs already of weakness and areas of opportunity, and that fear can be injected into the stock. But Bitcoin is still incredibly bullish. Like, it's not an if MSTR will crash. I'm so confident that it's a matter of when. And the reason why is because it's all based off of Bitcoin's price. And we all know one thing. 3 times in a row, Bitcoin is notorious for when it crashes, it falls harder than anything ever before. And that's what I'm so excited about, is let this thing push up. The more that it pushes up, the more downside for potential profit you have to make shorting it. So why are we in a rush to try to force a short when we know eventually it will present itself? Let's stay patient. Let's stay calculated. It's a momentum trade right now. Let the bulls make their money and encourage them. You can look out for them and be like, hey, congrats on making, your 500% or your 100%, whatever it is that someone is up going long on MSTR. All we can ever do is like, when do you plan to take profits? Some people are so narrow-minded that they think that this thing is a good investment, and you can't convince them. It's not your job to convince them. It's not my job. People as adults are able to invest their money in how they see to be fit. And if they lose it all based off of their inability to see a bullshit company like MSTR is only just a hyped up pump and dump, then again, they eventually will learn. Just like the people did from AMC, just like the people did from GameStop, and just like the people did from SMCI. So again, stay patient, stay calculated, and let's focus on that price action. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. So the next one that I see someone asking for me to break down is Tesla, and it makes complete sense on why you are asking about Tesla. Tesla is trading at previous highs of $350 per share, and as NASDAQ market continues to push higher, I also believe that Tesla can continue to trend higher as well. Remember, Tesla is kind of running off of a different catalyst this time. It's not running off of good fundamentals or good guidance, because if we remember, Tesla originally was selling off when it reported earnings and after the robo-taxi event. Do you guys remember that? It went from highs of 275 to lows of 230. It was not doing good. But then all of a sudden, the sentiment changed. And that's because he was a part of the Trump administration, and rightfully so. We've never seen such a powerful CEO that is very well known have such a powerful position and connection with the president or the president-elect as of now. So do I think that Tesla is a good buy? No, but just like, again, you have to respect the catalyst. And as long as this hype is still present, Tesla can continue to push higher. Again, it's not an if Tesla will correct itself, it's a when. But that when doesn't have to happen now. So let the bulls make their money. Even you can decide to go higher if price action supports it and trade it to go long, right? But as long as you respect the downside, that's all we really can do, right? Don't be blinded by, I think this thing's going to go to $1,000, right? When you're selling yourself the dream of, oh, this thing has to continue to go up. Well, no, sweetie, right? When it goes from overall lows of 240 to overall highs and gains 40, 50% in just a matter of days, there's some form of, I don't want to call it manipulation, but hype. There's a lot of momentum, a lot of, positive sentiment, and there's a lot of excitement, and rightfully so. A lot of excitement with Elon, a lot of excitement with Trump. Let the bulls make their money. You make your money. But once that price action begins to change, then you don't need to short it on the way down. Just know that pullback eventually will happen because it's within Tesla's DNA. Everything that gaps up very quickly, it eventually will correct itself. It gaps up, it will correct itself. It gaps up, it will correct itself. It pumps up, it will correct itself. And it's people that buy up here that always get burned. So again, this is why I make these videos, so you are aware of the downside risk, not to avoid the stock in the short term, but to know when it's a good buy. And that's when the selling pressure begins to kick in. So I'm super excited to follow up with Tesla, and I would love to buy Tesla and add more of it into my long-term portfolio. But I want to buy it when it makes sense, not when, your cab driver or your Uber driver is telling you, you think right now is a good time to buy Tesla? And it's like, at that point, it's, that the hype is too well known, right? So let's move on to the next one. Let's go ahead and do 3 more. So RDDT. Yeah, I heard that Reddit was doing pretty good, right? Reddit has been incredibly bullish, higher highs, higher lows. Yep. And this is after it reported earnings. Price action has been supporting it. So this is, again, going to be a play where you can try to trade it off of that EMA on the 4-hour. You can see that it's respected it pretty well. All we're seeing right here are higher highs, higher lows. Obviously, again, it sounds like a broken record. You just want to take downside risk into consideration because it has pushed up a decent amount within a short period of time. But there's a very consistent trend here. And it's, being able to buy off of that moving average as long as it still supports it. If it breaks below that moving average and price action ends up following on the downside, then at that point that would be considered a break of pattern and where I would personally cut losses. But pullbacks happen all the time. Pullbacks shouldn't scare you. They're really just, if you think about it, as long as direction is still bullish, pullbacks are simply a better opportunity to be able to buy at a cheaper level and make money as the stock recovers. Do I think that Reddit long term is a good investment? Well, I mean, you can look at previous prices and kind of make a decision for yourself. I just think it's a little blown out of proportion. But again, as long as hype is present and pattern is not broken, then I can see why you're paying attention to it. And I'm saying this because I know a lot of people like just to trade off of the trend. This would not be a stock that I would personally trade myself. But again, I just have a different style of trading. I'm a little bit more, I like to stay away from these stocks that run up anything more than 50% within a short period of time. I kind of just feel like I've missed the rally already, right? So what about NVIDIA? Is that the next one let's go ahead and break down SMCI. I do apologize. I did say, Ray, that I was going to break down SMCI. This one's a really good one. So I have mixed feelings about SMCI right now. Do you guys mind if I elaborate? So on the technical side, let me just get into this real quick. On the technical side, I'm just going to treat it as any other stock. On the technical side, SMCI is technically a descending stock. Lower highs, lower lows, it gets rejected off of that moving average. Sometimes it does break above it, but ultimately there's more selling pressure long-term than there is buying pressure. It's having a nice little upswing, just like it's had upswings in the past before, and it just continues to form these lower highs. Do I view this area to be a good buy? No, if anything, I view it as a better exit to potentially get rejected and then sell back off and make new lows. The thing that I do want to bring up about SMCI, the reason that it was doing so poorly when it went from highs of 122 all the way to lows of $20 per share is because it was under investigation for kind of cooking its books. And then on top of that, it didn't report earnings when it was supposed to report, and then it ran the risk of it potentially getting delisted from the NASDAQ market. So there was a series of things that led to more selling pressure and more fear for SMCI. Now, this was very similar to what happened back in SMCI. I think it was 2017. I looked into these series of articles where they talked about SMCI and how they've done this in the past before and they've recovered from it. So although it's an incredibly risky stock because things look very, very bad for SMCI right now, I could see why someone with a very high risk tolerance, not me, but with someone with a very high risk tolerance that would be willing to take the risk of, hey, but if SMCI does recover, there's a lot of upside, right? So let's say that you got in at $20 to $24 per share based off of previous highs. There's huge amounts of upside potential. Now, again, if you guys don't remember, SMCI was a stock that I called out. This was before its stock split. It did a 10-to-1 stock split or something like that a few months ago. And for those that don't know what that is, that pretty much means that if you owned 1 share of SMCI, you now own 10 shares of SMCI at 10, at pretty much divisible by 10 of the face value, but overall, there's more shares available. The thing that I find really interesting about this is that other than the idea of it cooking its books, as long as that is not true and it begins to actually work with the NASDAQ to continue to file on time, SMCI could be a stock that could potentially recover. So I could see why a lot of people are paying attention to it. As of right now, I personally think it's a little too early to tell. And you guys know that I loved talking crap on this company, especially when it was trading at these extreme overbought levels. I called it an overvalued, overhyped bullshit AI company because all it did was it would react the same way that NVIDIA would trade, but even more dramatic. NVIDIA would have a 3 or 5% day. SMCI would have a 15% day. It was crazy. It was crazy the way that SMCI was trading. It was very hyped up, very similar to MSTR, very similar to GameStop, where the price action and the movement and the momentum didn't make sense. But just like all great things, eventually peak and then come crashing down. So now, again, it's like, do we want to wait through this whole roller coaster of waiting for proper price action to actually indicate signs of a recovery. As of right now, we're far from that. It's forming lower highs, lower lows. If this thing actually begins to indicate signs of reversal, then that could be a different story. I could see why people are watching SMCI. Do I think it's a good investment right now? I think it's incredibly early to tell. So definitely something that I would love to follow up with when things begin to make more sense. So thank you for covering SMCI, bro. Of course. So you guys know that I've talked crap about SMCI before, but I need to make sure that I always talk about, now that it's retraced and it's sold off a decent amount, if it does get its things together, I would love to see it succeed in the way that would actually make sense, not just skyrocket for no apparent reason. Let's go ahead and do 2 more. Okay. So Coinbase is a pretty popular one right now, so I don't mind talking about this one. Coinbase, the way that I view this is that Coinbase pretty much trades the way that Bitcoin is trading, which is quite funny, right? But because when Bitcoin is bullish, Coinbase is bullish. When Bitcoin is bearish, Coinbase is bearish. So I've been having a lot of fun with Coinbase because anytime that I see Bitcoin selling off, I'll short Coinbase. Anytime that I see Bitcoin going up, I can go long on Coinbase. So something that I can follow up with when direction is very clear. As of right now, Bitcoin is pulling back a little bit, but nothing too crazy. I don't think that it would make a lot of sense for me to trade Coinbase right now, to go long or to go bear, right? Or to go short, to go bear. That was weird. If Bitcoin breaks above 100,000 and you are certain that you think it's going to break above 100,000, then I wouldn't mind going long on Coinbase if that was my confidence behind Bitcoin. If I was certain that Bitcoin was going to get rejected at 100,000 and come crashing down, then the idea of shorting Coinbase would be something that I would consider. You have to understand, it's become pretty overbought within a short period of time. But remember, if the hype continues for Bitcoin, then so can the price action for Coinbase. If Bitcoin begins to retrace, there's huge downside potential. And this is why I love making these videos with you guys, because we will see, based off of what happens with Bitcoin, you'll see a bunch of different people talk about, all these different stocks that you can trade. But you're watching this video right now, and you can see the downside potential. And we all know that Bitcoin eventually will come crashing down, right? It's just a matter of time. So as long as you're patient, if you focus on this one stock and you wait for proper confirmation, you don't jump in early, you wait for price action to support the case that yes, Bitcoin is crashing and so is Coinbase. There's a lot of money to be made on the downside. I know a lot of you guys don't like shorting, and I respect that. I don't think that you should short if you have no experience with it. But it's just a great reminder that you don't need to always have to have a bunch of different stocks to trade. Sometimes it's really useful to stay narrow focused, have 1 or 2 stocks that are your bread and butter, and you wait for those opportunities to present themselves. Because what you make off of those trades end up being so much greater than trading 5 or 10 or 15 different stocks. Again, not just from my experience, but feel free to ask other people. What do they have more success in? Trading a bunch of random different stocks or sticking to their bread and butter, right? So just my 2 cents and what I wanted to talk about. Let's go ahead and do one more. What's going to be the next one? Nike. Anything interesting happen with Nike? No, Nike's still selling off. Consistent descending pattern. I don't want it to be Nike. Nike's not going to be the last stock we break down. Yeah, it's had a nice little upswing, but it's had this in the past before. It's an incredibly bearish stock. At least it has been for the past few months. Unless something changes and it didn't previously present that, then that would be a different story. But you could see for the past few years, all Nike has been doing is forming lower highs and lower lows. So this makes it incredibly challenging for a beginner to make money off of a stock that is continuously selling off. This is why it's super important to stay patient, stay calculated, and trade when direction is in your favor, to not trade against it. So this one would be a lot more challenging. So how about for long-term? No, I see that, Michael, as a long-term play. And trust me, Nike has been a stock that I've been considering to add to my daughter's long-term portfolio because it's a household name. But I want to remind you, just because it's a household name for people like you and I, doesn't mean that it will always be, not just a good company, but a company that trades at a good price because it's a well-ran company. And it looks like, if you can tolerate the time that it might take for Nike to recover, then sure. But I want to remind you, it's a cheap price right now. It was a cheap price in 2003. It was a cheap price in 2002. And it pulled back in 2021. So the cheap can always get cheaper. And that's just the thing that I love to remind people. So unless you just want to wait for confirmation, if you choose to buy in early, just know that it might take some time. It might take time for Nike to recover. It might not ever happen. And that's the risk that you are choosing to take by buying a stock early, right? There's no indication of a reversal. There's no technical breakout. You can look into the company fundamentally and see quarter after quarter if they're actually reporting better than what was expected. But as of right now, it's too early to tell, in my opinion. UPST, what's going on, Ronaldo? Upstart. So on the 4-hour time frame, incredibly bullish, higher highs and higher lows. What do you think I'm going to say about this one? Do I think it's a good buy right now? Heck no. Do I think it could be potentially a good trade? It looks like it's a stock that's incredibly hyped up, right? Direction is in your favor. I wouldn't want to short this right now because direction is in favor for the bulls. So I can see why if you're a day trader and you're trying to make money on something that is incredibly bullish intraday, right? Yeah, this would be something that I wouldn't mind paying attention to it, but I also have to be mindful of the downside risk. Knowing how incredibly bullish it is, there's huge pullback potential. So just something to be mindful of. Not that it has to happen, but knowing that it can begin to pull on back and that maybe it's not the safest play. As long as direction is in your favor and you know how to manage or mitigate risk, sure, I can see why you're paying attention to Upstart. But as soon as direction begins to change against you, holding yourself accountable and managing and mitigating risk, I think would be super, super important. So without further ado, I'm going to leave it at that. Again, we have a strong week ahead of us. It's going to be a 4-day trading week with a stock market closed on Thursday in observance to Thanksgiving. It looks like we have a handful of economic reports that are being crammed into Wednesday. So please make sure that you are aware of that. It looks like we got the PCE report, jobless claims, and GDP report 1 hour before the market opens. And if you're part of our LPP team, we'll be sure to be covering that within our live trading session. So I hope to see you there tomorrow at Market Open for our live session. If you ever want to tune on in, you guys have heard me say it before. I trade live every single morning right at Market Open, and you can join for as little as $1 per day. You also, again, if you wanted to gift LPP, so whoever it is that you wanted to gift it to, feel free to message me and we can work something out. But again, if you wanted to join LPP for as little as $1 per day, the second link in the description down below will break it down to just that. And yes, it's a one-time payment, lifetime access. You'll watch me trade live every single day, and you'll also get access to the A to Z video lesson library. So I'm excited to see how this trading week ends up presenting itself. It should be a lot of fun, and regardless if it's bullish or bearish, there's a lot of money to be made as long as we focus on one thing, and that's market direction. So I appreciate your time. I hope that earned a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and like always, let's make sure that we end the year on a green note. Take care, team.